Hello, and we're live. Good
Hi.
afternoon. How are you?
Great, thanks. Happy to be here again. How are you?
Good. Melting. I'm melting. I think a lot of us are today. I've talked to many different people around the world, and they're all melting. So that's standard protocol these days, it seems. So today's chat is lust. What is it really? And it's a really powerful subject. I think for most people, we have a misunderstanding about what lust is. So I just want to ask you quickly, what is your perspective of lust?
Oh, it's a great question. Like it's all physical. It's extreme on one end of the continuum. It's lacking like some sacred friendship, connection, depth. It's like a lot of the things in society these days of just superficial and so overdone, like wearing
Mm-hmm.
nothing, it's too easy and there's a
Yeah.
darkness to it.
Okay. So I agree with everything that you've just said, and we'll expand and elaborate on that.
Oh, good.
Um, what I would say lust is a craving, and lust isn't just sexual. You can lust after power. Somebody who's greedy can lust after whatever it is, the material thing that they want more of. And essentially, at the core, lust is craving, and craving is lack mentality. And lack mentality always comes from a lack of self awareness. So let's take, for example, somebody who's lusting for power. They want control over, they want dominion over, they want power over. And what we'll find is that it's a never ending cycle. You're always going to want more. So that craving coming from a state of lust is an inexhaustible hunger.
Never
It's never
satisfied.
satiated.
Mhm.
Exactly. It's never ever satisfied. And the reason that it's never satisfied is because we're seeking outside of ourselves to fill that void within ourselves. And the void within ourselves that needs to be filled with connection to self. And so lust isn't just about sex. I think that's really important to recognize. The matrix, the false matrix, the parasitic class, to coin your phrase, the parasitic class is essentially has an inexhaustible hunger to feed themselves. So lust could be seen as vampire energy, feeding off of. And the vampire energy doesn't give consideration to the one they're feeding off of. And it gets really tricky when you've got people feeding off each other. So that also you'll find the sadist and masochist dynamic is involved here. The masochist allows themselves from the needy victim mindset to be fed off of, and the sadist from the righteous entitled mindset feeds off of. And that is a dynamic that we'll see. So we'll break down lust. Lust is greed. Lust is an insatiable hunger. Lust is superficial. Lust is craving and therefore coming from lack mentality. And lack mentality means I don't know who and what I am yet. I believe there's a lack, and there isn't a lack. Lust, when it comes to sexuality, is the one that I think most of us associate lust with. And we live in a culture, especially Western culture, we live in a culture that is inundated with programming to support lust. And what that does is it keeps us craving and desiring from a very superficial level, inexhaustible hunger. So it's like addictive behavior as well, right?
Mhm.
So you'll see somebody who's emotionally unavailable, somebody who lacks self-awareness. And we see this more often in men than women, but there's no absolutes. We'll see that a man will go from woman to woman to woman in lust. And we're seeing through the Western culture now more than ever before. It's always been present, but now it's blatantly out in the open, is that sexualization has been put into overdrive.
Mhm.
Okay. So it's being condoned, endorsed, and supported.
Mhm.
It's now considered okay to feed off of a child sexually. They're trying to normalize that. And
Mhm.
there's nothing healthy about that because that enters into the sadist and masochist dynamic, right? Needy victim. I need you to validate me through your attention of me, regardless of whether your attention is a positive thing or a negative thing. And when it comes to lust, it's a negative thing. Now, that doesn't mean in romantic relationships where there is a deeper commitment, where there is a deeper recognition, you don't just see the person as an object. So lust in its fullness requires objectification.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to see you as an object that it can feed off of, and you must be willing to allow it to feed off of you. So both parties in that dynamic, sadist and masochist, victim and righteous and entitled, will be coming from a lack of self. They're just coming from different directions regarding the lack of self.
Wow.
So it doesn't mean in a romantic relationship, for example, in a marriage, that, you know, you may not experience lust, which is very visual sexually. We're talking about sexual lust, okay? Again, we can lust after power, we can lust after food, which speaks to gluttony and greed and all of those things, again, rooted in craving, which is a lack of self-awareness. In a marriage, it might be, you know, I'm visually attracted to my partner, and that visual attraction has activated sexual desire. But that isn't the foundation of the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, you know, I saw you looking so attractive today and you lit up all my buttons and I want to have sex with you, but it doesn't mean that I'm feeding off of you. That's just a component of what can be a very healthy romantic relationship. And most of us don't know that, especially in Western culture. So what were you taught growing up about sexuality that could lead to lust?
I think it's even hard to articulate it because the mind control and the programming is so deep. But my understanding is sex is about power, and that I'm only as good as looking sexy. Like I'm only as good as being attractive sexually to somebody else, that the worth is attached to that.
Right. So back to the parasitic class having deliberately inverted and distorted the truth of who and what we are, right? So anybody who's listening, you might want to listen to some of the other chats on my channel, including Truth, What Is It Really? So we are taught as women through Western culture to objectify ourselves, to basically put ourselves out there as a piece of meat. And if we're the right looking kind of meat, then we're going to attract the predator. And we deem that to be a success. However, what it does is it minimizes a woman to nothing but an object and a piece of meat. It reduces a woman, and there's no absolutes. It happened for men as well. And we're now seeing it more than ever on both sides. Okay. We reduce ourselves as women, especially the older generations, that as long as you were pretty, as long as you were attractive, as long as you were sexually desirable, you had a chance. And in fact, we even see where men will marry young and marry a partner that's about the same age. And then as soon as the woman starts to change and she no longer meets that society's model of what's attractive, he throws her away and he gets a newer, younger model. And what this does is it distorts the truth. And the truth is a woman actually gains more power. She gains more worth as she grows older, and life causes her through experience to become wiser and stronger. So the lust belief system is endorsed and supported through objectification and hypersexualization. It also speaks to greed and gluttony, where the more power you have, the better. And we get drunk. So you could say whether you're lusting after sex or you're lusting after power or you're craving food or alcohol, we lust after these drugs. It gives us that intoxicated feeling until it wears off, and it always does, because it's unsustainable, because it's not for the greater good of all. It causes harm to you and to me. And therefore we just go back out looking for the drug again and again and again. So one of the ways that we as women, the feminine side, can be to say, you know, I'm no longer going to be willing to put myself out there as a piece of meat. I'm going to see myself as having much greater worth than just my physical body. And I'm not saying don't take care of your body and don't feel good and attractive about the way that you present yourself to the world. What I'm saying is when you feel good about you, you're much less likely to attract lust, because like attracts like. So the women need to change the standards, and society has indoctrinated us in so many ways to compare and compete. Women
Mhm.
have been taught to mutilate their bodies, expensive and dangerous surgical procedures in order to meet society, and a very dysfunctional society, the very dysfunctional society's idea of what it is to be attractive.
Mhm.
And this is unsustainable. And how do we know? Because we're in a great state of collapse. So if a woman wants to take back her power, she's got to see herself as so much more than an object. And you see so many women out there who've completely objectified themselves and are therefore basically volunteering as lamb to slaughter. And
Mhm.
then wondering why they go through so many relationships that end and collapse. And it's because it was built on a very superficial premise to begin with.
Mhm.
Going into relationships, in order for them to be sustainable, requires that a man has self-respect for himself, which means he's going to look for so much more than a woman who objectifies herself. Okay, because her looks are not what's going to raise your children, and her looks, or his looks, it goes both ways, are not going to comfort you in the middle of the night. You know, if you're experiencing a deep crisis or trauma, the looks aren't very helpful, and society's taught people to put all the attention on the looks, on the body. It's not about true compatibility.
That you've just kind of blown my mind about lust being so much more than sexuality, and it makes me I went kind of big in my mind to like, "Oh, this is part of transhumanism," where, like, one feeds on the other to the detriment of the other, and even if I'm objectifying myself and like attracts like, I get to keep playing the victim role, you know,
Yeah.
drawing the parasitic, but you also have to not see the other as fully human. Like, it's a way
No,
of
no, you
diminishing.
have to minimize. You've got to see it
Yeah.
in a very superficial way. And absolutely, lust in true practice is parasitic. It's vampire energy. And we have been socially conditioned and programmed to such a degree that our perspective of ourselves is completely distorted. And if you look at, for example, online dating, swipe left, swipe right. I like the look of them,
Mhm.
therefore I'm going to proceed. Now, if you meet somebody in person, you might like the look of them, but if you're in tune with yourself vibratorily, you also want to pay attention to whether or not you feel a true resonance. It's like, oh, well, he's really handsome, or well, she's really pretty, but you know, there's nothing else there.
Yeah.
Right. So society doesn't endorse that. And society, our current matrix, okay, the external world that we engage in is completely superficial. It's instant gratification. It's me. It's don't go any deeper. As long as you look the part, whoever has the most toys when he dies wins. It's, you know, it's all about visual. It's not, and you see so many relationships. I see this all the time where, and energetically, of course, I can feel it with heightened sensitivity due to inner connection. I am aware of who and what I am, and I imbibe that. I integrate that in my daily reality. So I could be attracted to somebody that by society standards would not be considered handsome or attractive.
Mhm.
But vibratorily, I'm drawn to the inner being, which is where the real meat and potatoes is. That's where the sustainable connection is. And so when we understand that society is just so broken, distorted, and inverted, we reach a point where we recognize we're no longer going to be fed. We're no
Mhm.
longer going to get what we want in a sustainable way if we continue to subscribe to that model, and to understand how all pervading that instant gratification, greedy, me, I don't care about you. I'm not going to take responsibility or accountability. I'll take what I want and kick away the rest. It's all throughout our culture now, worldwide.
And
And this
that
is the,
was installed intentionally because how else are we gonna be good consumers and putting our head down going 9 to 5 and basically knowing no true connection to something bigger, so we're plugging into, like, Target and Walmart, right?
constantly going
Yeah.
outward in an attempt to get that feedback that we actually must eventually come to recognize has to come from within. from the connection to your higher divine self. And when we understand the agenda of the parasitic class, it gets really easy to see, because the parasitic class is a parasite. It feeds off of us. And this is where the satanic agenda comes in, because the satanic agenda is not connected to a sustainable source that's for the greater good of all, that is inclusive and unifying and community oriented. It's very self-centered, and it's completely egoic, right? So the ego is a perspective, it's a container, it's a view that we are given when we come into the physical body. And if we maintain a purely egoic mental connection, superficial, no depth, okay, then we just cycle over and over and over again, seeking a new drug, a new hit, again and again and again. And, you know, if you take street drugs as an example, or even pharmaceutical drugs for that matter, okay, it doesn't actually get to the root of the craving. And what we crave, and lust is craving, what we're really craving ultimately at the end of the day, no matter what, in every way, we are craving what? Finish it for me, Chris.
Connection to who and what we are. Remembering what we are.
Right. So the first stage of creation is the idea, the desire. The second stage is what we desire doable. The third stage is love, heart. Do I love this desire? Yes. Okay, that's all good. But lust can still exist within the first three stages of creation. The fourth stage is the root chakra. That's the fourth chakra. And it says, is what I desire that's possible, that I love, that I could also crave. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it for the greater good of all, causing harm to none, including self? And this is why you'll recognize, with minimal experience, if you're paying attention, that anything we crave is unsustainable, because it's not for the greater good of all, because it's based on a parasitic premise. That I need you to fulfill me, instead of recognizing the name of the game, our purpose. Everybody shares the same purpose. You may have a different bliss, okay? But the purpose is to master energy and emotion. And when we master energy and emotion, it leads us to that inner connection, which is sustainable, which unites us with our true self, which gives us an inexhaustible, clean supply of energy, power, insight. And we no longer become, we no longer crave, we're no longer greedy, we're no longer gluttonous, because we realize through authentic connection, as above, so below, as within, so without, we recognize through that true authentic connection with our higher self that you're never going to run out, providing you maintain that connection. And this is why, as we begin to awaken, we let go of cravings, we let go of lust, greed, gluttony, pride. And pride can also be something that you lust after as well. You know, look at me, right? That as well. And society deliberately programs us into this. So it's really important to start to recognize, if you're in cyclical relationship with money, I never have enough, I want even more. Well, how much do you really need? You know, I've got $40 billion in the bank. Well, how much are you going to spend? And if you're truly connected to your higher self, you'll know that even if that bank blows up and digitally your dollars disappear, you're going to be able to manifest more.
Yeah.
There will always be enough. So those of us that are awakening to the truth of who and what we are recognizing these unsustainable relationships. They always collapse. And why do they collapse? Because divine source will not give the creative power to create anything that is not for the greater good of all. It will therefore be unsustainable. And whatever you create based in lust will have a limited shelf life. And lust is deliberately considered a sin. And I want to reiterate what a sin is. A sin is not a mortal sin. Is lust forgivable? Absolutely. Everything is. Okay. We want to understand what a sin truly is. The Christian religion teaches that a sin is mortal. If you sin, you're going to hell. That's it. You're done. You're fried. You're finished. That's a complete lie. Again, distorted, inverted reality. A sin is the term used by an archer which says, I missed the bullseye, I missed the mark. So when you lust and crave, you're missing the mark, and you're going to be constantly sinning and missing the mark as long as you're seeking outside of yourself that which you will inevitably, invariably, one day or another, recognize you must gain from within yourself, that connection to higher self. So this is also where, when we let go of the sin of lust, we let go of fear.
They're
We
also
let go
interconnected.
of,
Because it is that I can see how it's that fear, which you've said false evaluation about reality. False evaluation is thinking my worth is out there, or it's only good enough when I have, the praise or the money or the clothes or the shoes or the food.
wow, and
Yeah,
it ties into idolatry as well, right?
right.
Look
Yep.
at me. So when
Hollywood.
somebody who, and I something came across my vision yesterday, and it was an actress on the red carpet. Okay. And she was like, and I burst out laughing, because I was like, wow, bless her heart. She has no idea what she's really doing. And that's pride and vanity. And she is lusting after, she is craving that external idolatry, that external idol worship, that external praise and approval, so that she feels good about herself.
Uh-huh. And that's where like the Botox comes in and all the plastic surgeries, because they're trying to get back to that thing that they thought fed them, which you'll lose. Like you said, everything, if it's not for the greater good, that's not sustainable, so it falls away, like youth and your moment in the spotlight or whatever, it falls
Yes.
away. And so then
Yes.
trying to get that all back.
So one of the false beliefs, especially Western culture, but definitely worldwide, one of the false beliefs is that youth is the desired state. Well, that's completely ridiculous, because nobody stays young forever. So we're taught to see ourselves as only having value and worth when we're young, instead of recognizing that we are an evolving, completely unique work of art. And I'm very happy to be evolving. And my marker is health.
Radiance.
Am I healthy?
Yeah.
Right. And so for me, I'm attracted to vitality. I'm attracted to health, because I've recognized that youth is an impermanent state, that everybody's going to age, and that aging is actually a privilege. It's also a false belief, because with vitality and true health, we don't age the same way. So I was recently out in a public market, and happened to start chatting with a woman who was selling honey. And I don't know how the conversation came around, but she happened to mention her age. And I had a moment to go, wow, you're actually younger than I am. And visually, I would never have guessed that. Okay, so this person lacked health and vitality, because the body at the cellular level renews itself completely every 7 years. So somebody who is gaining chronological age on the planet, but does so with health and vitality, is actually still going to remain physically healthy, vital, and attractive to anybody who recognizes that somebody who loves themselves enough to take care of their body, somebody who loves themselves enough to make sure that they've got that vitality, which is an energetic connection to source, is going to be someone that you can actually build with. And aging is a privilege. And we're taught, and we see this so much. We see this so much now, especially in the youngest generations, where they believe that your worth is diminished as you get older, and nothing could be farther from the truth. I remember one of my children saying to me once, I was around 50 at that point, and she was saying, "Ooh, mom, like, somebody older having sex is like, basically not desirable." And I said, well, hang on a minute here. Hang on a minute. Just think about how many more years of practice, how many more years of skill. And she goes, it hadn't occurred to her that with practice, that with time and the aging process, and I don't actually really believe in the aging process, again, because the body's capable of renewing itself, but we've been so programmed into a distorted reality that we no longer know that. And what we resist will persist. So if you resist aging, you're actually inviting it. And so she had that recognition going, oh yeah, actually, you might be better at it. You've got more skill, you've got more tools, you've got, all of those things. And I know myself, some people will really desire a younger partner, and I most definitely do not want a younger partner. I want somebody who's got some experience under their belt. I want somebody who's got some depth. I want somebody who has the ability to do so much more than exist at the superficial level. The superficial is ego. And one of the acronyms for ego is edging God out.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And when you live exclusively in ego, you're going to continuously sin, you're going to continuously crave, and you're going to lust after, through a lack of connection with self, that which you crave in the external reality, which inevitably must be gained internally. So I don't need somebody to tell me that I'm worthy and valuable and lovable. I do that for myself. So I'm not needy and craving. I've met my own needs. I've fed myself. So
Yeah.
I don't need your approval. I don't need the external world to approve of me and validate me. I do it for myself. And I do that through recognizing who and what I really am.
I don't think we said in this chat, will you say who and what we are in case people have missed all the other chats? I think,
Yeah. We are multidimensional, interdimensional, multisensory, immortal creator gods. And in order to be in alignment with divine, you must go in a God direction, which is good, orderly direction. I don't encourage religions. I don't encourage external power and control systems. When you're experiencing crisis outside of you, that is actually the call to go within.
Mhm.
When you're craving someone outside of you to meet your needs, that is actually your cue to go within to meet your own needs. Now, if you have you ever noticed, I don't go grocery shopping when I've just had a meal, and I don't go grocery shopping when I'm hungry. Because if I'm hungry, I'll buy instant food. It's like all bananas and apples. I can
Yeah.
eat them right now. I don't have to cook. And if I go out after I've had a meal, I come home with like nuts.
Yeah, nothing.
Right? I come home with nothing. So
Yeah.
when we are seeking outside of ourselves from that hungry state, we're going to essentially choose something that's not nutritious and delicious. And if we're overfed, we're not going to be interested at all. So it's kind of like finding that beautiful balance, which is I'm good by myself, but I'm looking for something that will enhance me.
That's
I'm looking for something that could help me to expand and grow. And that has to be somebody else who's also connected to their true self. Otherwise, we can be setting ourselves up for that sadist, masochist, vampire, needy, feed off of me
Yeah.
energy.
I had a light bulb go off with the word attraction and when you were talking about vitality and radiance, because that's so attractive and that it all is vibrational. It's all frequency,
All
right?
frequency, authenticity, right? So take, for example, a woman who has spent, I can mostly only speak to the woman's side of the experience because I'm very clearly female. Take a woman who has spent her life, her youth, let's say, on the external, on mutilating herself, on trying to get that lustful attention. She reaches a certain point where society has said, okay, you've expired now. And then she tries to make connection. She tries to seek a relationship and finds out that actually she's only going to ever be able to choose from the bottom of the garbage can because she has nothing else to offer. And she spent all these decades investing in the superficial. And when push comes to shove, she doesn't actually have anything to bring to the table. And she will not be able to attract a healthy man from that state. And I see this happen all the time, not just for women, but also for men. I see that they've invested in the superficial and wake up one day and go, oh, wow, I've got nothing to offer.
It's not raising your frequency, which brings into your experience something that you're, yeah, I don't even know. I was going to say craving.
Yeah. Desire.
Yeah,
Okay.
what you're
Desire is a
desiring,
healthy
right?
thing.
Yeah.
Desire is a healthy thing, but when it becomes lust, it's no longer healthy. Life is about desiring. Life is about creating. Okay. And the Buddhist faith will say that the root of suffering is desire, and that's incorrect. Because the root of suffering is not desire. You came here to desire, to change your circumstances, to create. Okay. The root of suffering is attachment to getting what you desire. And that creates resistance. So if we let go of the model of what society's told us, which is that you've got to be young, you have to look a certain way. And if you don't look that way, you're not going to ever get attention, love, affection, connection. When we dismiss that, we start to view people in a very different way. And I have to say, the most beautiful woman I've ever seen was 99 years old and as wrinkled as a raisin. But when you were in her presence, her whole space just exuded this most delicious feeling of love and acceptance and appreciation. And I always felt so good about myself when I was with her.
Wow.
And that to me is beauty. True beauty is an inside job. When you are beautiful, when we are full of beauty, we understand what beauty really is. And that is that resonating, vibratory connection that says, I am a safe space. I'm not selfish. I'm not self-seeking. I'm not greedy. I'm not lustful. I'm not craving your life force. I'm not craving your attention. I'm not craving as a constant state of being. There is no peace until we learn to be here now in a state of acceptance, and lust will never lead to acceptance. Lust is not the way to peace. The way to peace is through peace. And everything that we're taught is inverted and distorted. And so for some people hearing this talk, they will feel very disconnected from what we're saying. And many people, we want to recognize that we grow in degrees and stages, and we live many, many lifetimes. So the fact that somebody might be living in a very lustful state, that's okay. It's not something we want to judge. Don't slip into another miss your mark sin by judging. It's just understanding that we grow in degrees and stages. And how do we learn about lust? By experiencing lust. How do we learn about greed? By experiencing greed. And you're just going to exhaust that experience until you hit the inevitable bottom that says the only way out, the only way to relief, the only way to sustainability is to go inward. And when we've gone inward and we've created that connection to our higher self, you're going to be attractive. No matter what age you are, no matter how wrinkled you are, no matter how many gray hairs you have, right? It doesn't matter. Yeah. True connection comes from authenticity. And lust is anything but. Lust is fake and plastic and projection and superficial and temporary. It's a fantasy. It's an illusion. And we see how many ways this is promoted in our culture. Let's take pornography. Gambling. I recently went to a casino for the first time in my life, and I'm on the mature side of the experience. So for some people, it's like, wow, really, never. And I went into the casino, and I immediately began to make observations about how it was a trap to keep you lusting for and craving that energy hit, the dopamine hit. No windows, no clocks, and the machines are all set up to give you that dopamine hit, right? So lust is basically based on the same principle, which is you looked at me, dopamine hit, but it wears off. You validated me, dopamine hit. You craved my body and you wanted to use me temporarily for your own sexual gratification. But during that moment, I felt desired. Dopamine hit, it wears off. And then I got to go look to be desired again. And how do I need to mutilate myself to meet the latest standards of what's desirable? It's an inexhaustible, endless trail that we all need to experience. And once we've experienced it fully, we recognize it's a dead end, and it's never going to satisfy us. It's never going to give us what we're really seeking, which is the internal connection. And this is where a lot of marriages will end too. I'll just say this. A lot of marriages end when the sexual lust component burns out. And that's when the honeymoon period ends. And most relationships will end when the honeymoon period ends, but they'll hang on for a little while longer. Okay. They call it the 7-year itch. When the lust ends, it burns out. Or when the honeymoon period ends, which is based on superficial, relationships will end because we don't know how to evolve into the deeper stages of connection, which makes the relationship sustainable. And that is to take lust and sex and the superficial and the romantic and the sentimental and evolve that into authentic mutual love, respect, appreciation, and deep connection, which actually ironically creates sacred sexuality, which is rather fabulous. I'm not saying give up sex, not at all. In fact, I think sexuality is something that is very healthy if it's based in authentic respect. And I believe that sexuality is a youth tonic. I highly encourage it. I highly encourage it. Definitely. Not lust.
Can people lust after drama like that?
Yes.
That can be
Yes.
a dopamine
We
hit.
crave the drama for the dopamine hit. We crave the drama for the adrenaline, which makes us feel alive. So we're not actually, in a way, you could say, we're not really alive. We're not vital and vibrant and attractive until we make that connection. And if you're vital and alive and vibrant and connected, it's been my experience that you will be attractive throughout your entire life. You will remain attractive. And then your next challenge becomes boundaries and discernment. Are you attracted to me because you see me as a really good payload, a great dopamine hit? Are you attracted to me because you resonate and you're coming from that same connected, beautiful space, right? So
This is where you say, don't gulp. This is where you say, sip, don't gulp.
Yes, take your time in getting to know whether or not the initial stages of a relationship are authentic. Is that person really seeking true connection, or is that person just looking for their next hit? Are they craving from you that vital life force that they get when you become the object of their attention, or they become the object of your attention? And that's what we're looking for. When we're lusting, we're looking for somebody to give us the life force, that energy that we feel when they validate our existence through their attention upon us. But if their attention upon us is superficial and vain, if it's plastic, if it's inauthentic, if it's coming from lust, then it is going to collapse. And it usually collapses in a painful way, which creates the feeling of, I become jaded. Everybody's that, not recognizing that your inner reality, how you view life, your perspective of life, your core belief systems, whether you're aware of them or not, is actually what you project into the outer reality. So if people are always lusting after you, then I suggest that you go inward and examine your own belief systems. And we are living in a reality right now that is such a fantasy. It's so dramatic. It's so constant. That we don't actually have the time, if we continue to buy into that version of reality, we don't have the time to go inward, to sit in the stillness, to sit in that uncomfortable state. And again, it's such an all-pervading belief system that creates the lust. It's don't go inward, seek outward. Life is this, life is that. And that's not actually what life is about, those false belief systems that we're indoctrinated into. Right? We all wake up. We all wake up eventually. We all hit our bottom. The first stage of awakening is the collapse. And that might be, when you're 60 years old and you're all alone and you can no longer pick somebody up anymore who's all living in that superficial world. And that's when we typically get called to go inward and take a deeper look and start to develop ourselves. Otherwise, we become the model of the angry, jaded, bitter version of ourselves that is essentially just saying, I'm not connected. So life hasn't satisfied me because I've tried to satisfy myself based on a false belief system, on a fantasy that I was brainwashed and indoctrinated into from birth, and my parents and their parents and their parents. So this touches on, everything is communicating with everything else. And the truth always loops back on itself. Right? The truth always connects. It's sustainable and it unites. So we could really expand into the next subject and the next subject. And then remember, the awakening process of who and what we are is a circular process. It's not linear. It's not chronological. It's circular. So you may learn something here and then need to circle back around here to learn this lesson, to come back to here, to apply that tool, to come back here, to, we don't recognize that. And again, there's another false belief system that says, go forward. And the idea is to go inward and to cycle, to go through the circular process of, like a nautilus. That's the representation of a nautilus. And as we become more aware, we expand up and out.
And because it's circular, like somebody may be resisting that if they're being hard on themselves. Like, I thought I learned this lesson, or there I am craving again, or oh my God, I fell for that.
Or if they're buying into instant gratification, the idea that perfectionism, the idea that we arrive, these also feed into that dissatisfaction if you don't get what you're looking for instantaneously, right?
Right.
And lust is really a deep, unconscious cry for connection to self. That's what it is. We're seeking it outside of ourselves. And again, you know, we could expand so much, and we are doing further talks, but we could expand so much on how we've been so deeply indoctrinated by the parasitic class, who wants us to remain lustful, because that way they can control us. It's the carrot dangling off a stick, believing that what you need is outside of yourself. It's such a powerful, powerful subject. So for anybody who's tuning in, if you're finding that you're unsatisfied, that you're feeling a lack, that you're looking, you know, you're online dating and you're constantly seeking, and you might be going out to any public place, and particularly, you know, bars and clubs where alcohol is. And alcohol is something that I encourage to be extremely, extremely careful with, because alcohol severs the connection to the higher self. This is why it's called spirits, because what you actually do is you blow a hole open in your biometric field when you drink alcohol. And that means multidimensional, interdimensional, multisensory, immortal beings. When you drink alcohol, lower vibratory beings can come in, which will cause you, and this touches on incubus and succubus, causes you to crave and lust. To crave and lust. I recently had a conversation with a woman who said she could not be with her husband sexually unless she'd had alcohol. And I pointed out to her that that was really something she might want to tune into, because the body knows. Trust your body, spirit, mind, body. Are you honored by the company you keep, what you eat, and where you sleep? And if your body is saying no while you are sober, and you need to be inebriated to say yes, that's a huge warning sign, because you'll find that when you're inebriated, you're now essentially out of your mind. And those lower vibratory beings, which are invisible, demons, spirits, whatever you might want to call them, okay, they now enter into your field and live off of you as a parasite, and can cause you to make some foolish and even very dangerous, life-threatening decisions.
Wow.
While you're in the disconnected state. So this is why you'll see we're living in a world right now where the price of food has gone through the roof, but the price of alcohol has not. And if you're living in Canada, there's an alcohol store or a marijuana dispensary on every corner, and the price is low. How is it the price of alcohol hasn't gone up, but if I want to buy an organic cabbage, it's going to cost me more than a bottle of wine? Again, the parasitic class want you to have quick and easy access to any of the manipulative ploys that will disempower you to maintain that lustful craving state. Clever ducks, aren't they?
Clever ducks.
Okay, so I think we've touched on quite a bit there.
So much.
In what we're doing, what Chris and I are sharing, and more of what I'm offering. LynetteLinda.com is a private network where we discuss these subjects and so much more in great depth. It's a very supportive community. And for anybody who's beginning the journey of life, who's beginning to awaken, you might be interested in an audiobook that I created called Mathamagical.com, Mathamagical.com. There's lots of answers out there. And as soon as we're ready to start to take back our power, as soon as we're sick and tired of being sick and tired, as soon as we're ready to stop craving and to start living, any tools that you need will immediately present themselves to you. So if this video happened to come across your path accidentally, there are no accidents. It may be a call to come home, to self-soothe, to self-love, to self-respect, to self-trust, to self-respect. Very, very important. So
Thank
thank you again.
you.
I really appreciate your time, and I hope you have a wonderful day and that you don't melt.
You too. Be well.
Okay.
Thank
See
you.
you next week. Cheers, love. Bye-bye.